When Brandon Ingram plays like that, basically unstoppable against the Pacers, the New Orleans Pelicans are going to be hard to beat. But did you see what he did differently in this game to make it happen? I'll tell you in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, here with you on this Monday, tipping off a week's worth of podcasts here. And we get to talk about that game from Friday. Oh boy, 129-102, the Pelicans just rolling the Indiana Pacers here. Brandon Ingram with an incredible game that we are going to talk about in this one. Then we're going to get into something that I've been talking about for a while, offense and defense. And then Trey makes shots, which was really cool to see again. Herb Jones, we'll talk about him. So we got a lot to cover because that game was just fun. I enjoyed Friday in the Smoothie King Center. I hope you did as well if you were there. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen. Today and every day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Become an everyday or listen Monday through Friday to Locked On Pelicans. Never miss an episode. Know what's going on with this team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or join almost 10,000 of y'all on YouTube and comment on YouTube. What was your favorite part of this game? Was it Brandon Ingram? Does this change how you view Brandon Ingram? Anything like that? So let's get into it because Brandon Ingram is the story from this one. 34 points as New Orleans just rolled to 48 points, I think it was in the first quarter. What was the number there? They won the first quarter 48-26. They almost put up 50 as New Orleans found themselves in a hole against the Indiana Pacers on Wednesday. To come back and completely flip the script like that was an incredible thing. They were near perfect. They were 20 for 22 from the field in the first quarter. Was 90.9%, 91%. Highest field goal percentage by a team in a quarter this season. That is an incredible thing. They were just unstoppable, and the game was more or less over. And they were also led by Brandon Ingram, who in that first quarter just dominated the game. 19 points, going 9 of 11. He missed 2 shots. The Pelicans missed 2 shots total. Brandon Ingram missed all of them, and we're like, it's totally fine. 19 points as he paced the team here, and he was on in this one. Overall, he was great. 34 points on 21 shot attempts is fantastic. 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, and just 2 turnovers. Brandon Ingram tends to have these like post All-Star break like periods where he goes on like runs and plays some really great basketball. And he's a very talented player, a very talented offensive player in particular. But there's a way that you get a good version of BI. If you've been a long-time listener, if you're an everydayer of the show, I don't love some of the mid-range shots that he takes. You want to see him getting to the rim, shooting more threes. He didn't take threes in this one, just took 2, went 1 of 2, which was fine. But he was aggressive Brandon Ingram, aggressive in this. And when he does that, he impacts the game at a higher level than just making some of the shots that he can make. He absolutely dominated this game. He got to the line 9 times, right? I'm going to sneeze here as I'm recording this. So give me 1 second. Okay, we should be good. Sorry about that. So he got to the line 9 times. That's a result of him driving to the basket. That's a result of him really trying to get downhill and attack and do all of those sorts of things that he at times doesn't do. But when he does, when he attacks the basket, when he drives, when he gets to the rim and kind of tries to beat his man off the dribble, that's one of the best versions of him that we see. He gets fouled. He goes to the line. It means the team gets into the bonus early and can get additional free throws for other guys, right? That's where you really increase your efficiency. It's really free throws and 3-point attempts or just not missing shots. And he shot 61.9% from the field in this one. This was one of the best versions of Brandon Ingram we've seen. He was also good defensively in this game, and he's been good defensively, I think, this year, or at least above average. But when he can impact the game like this, kind of take over, and then starts feeling it from there, then he can start getting to his spots. One of the things that you noticed in this, right, after attacking the basket, getting the defense kind of working backwards on him, that's when he can rely on the mid-range because they're going to just give him room for a wide open shot attempt on those. That shot's great. So when he takes those mid-rangers in the paint in particular, you love to see that because he's impacting the defense. You're bending the defense. You're forcing the defense to do things they don't want. Backpedaling, trying to take away the rim. So we'll give you the mid-range. And then he's a mid-range assassin, so he can go out and take those shots and sink those shots and keep cruising. And when he's feeling it like this, right, you're seeing him not quite at 3-level scoring, one made three, but essentially 3-level scoring, right? That's how you create those mid-range shots, and those are what you want him to be taking. You don't want it when the defense is like, we're going to leave you for these long mid-rangers, go ahead and take those. No. You want those short mid-range shots that's him getting downhill, that's bending the defense, because that's actually then creating space for other guys too. And in this one, when New Orleans was shooting the 3-ball well, when you have a guy like Trey Murphy coming in and hitting some of these shots and doing the things that he was doing, right? CJ was 4 of 7. Trey was 6 of 12. When you get that, and Jordan Hawkins in later run got a couple shots down. Those are the 3 guys that made multiple threes. But when the court is spaced like that, because they were keyed in on Zion Williamson, right? You saw this early on. Zion did not have a big game here, right? 3 of 6. Didn't really need to do much. Only played 21 minutes with how the game was going. 8 points. You know, when he had the ball, they were walling him off, which meant 2 guys were on him, which meant BI had room to get to the rim. That is the spacing that he needs sometimes that you want to see, and he took full advantage of it in this game, and that's a credit to him for recognizing that, realizing he can get downhill, that he would be able to score at the rim, or if not, once they kind of adjusted to that, then you take that mid-range. So it's that aggressive version of Brandon Ingram that you look at and you go, oh, that guy is a special player. Right? He's got 1 more year on his contract. The Pelicans are going to need to make a decision. Do you give him a big deal? Do you feel comfortable giving him a near max deal? That's kind of been an open question right now. Would you not? When he plays like this is the type of Brandon Ingram that can work with Zion Williamson. Add a couple more threes in there and I would be happy, but I'm not going to complain of a thing about this game. This is the type of guy that can absolutely help win the Pelicans a playoff series. That's going to be important as we get closer to the postseason, especially with New Orleans on an off day, moving up to 5th, which was cool to see. So give me this version of Brandon Ingram, and you're only going to hear me like singing his praises the rest of the season here, but he doesn't always play like this, right? A lot of people were saying he does this post All-Star break. That's great. I'm glad he does, and I know that, right? And we're expecting to see it here. You got to do that all season too. Pelicans could be looking at a top 4 seed otherwise. So he was awesome in this. He keeps this up, though. This Pelicans team is going to be a problem and a scary team going into the postseason that no one wants to face. So we just talked about Ingram and the offense. And notice the defense in this one was great by New Orleans. If you're a longtime listener of the show or a listener this season, right? Like that is not a surprise for you here. Let's break that down. Good offense leading into even better defense because there's some things that really stand out to you from this one. We'll break that down coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, I'm excited to tell you about FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. And you can bet on all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Look, if you took the over on Brandon Ingram at 25.5 in this one, he cleared that, you cashed out, you would have made money, and if you took advantage of this offer here, you would have won $150 in bonus bets. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA and the official sportsbook of Locked On. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are the #1 Pelicans podcast, breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. Love seeing aggressive Brandon Ingram like that. That was truly just an awesome performance. My buddy and I have season tickets together, and we have usually a rule. If either team is up 20 at halftime, and we need to adjust these rules actually for this season because of how scoring works. The theory has been if either team is up 20 at halftime, we can leave the game early. If it's Friday night, go out and enjoy New Orleans. If it's during the week, I can get home and record the show quicker and not be up till 1 in the morning. The other rule is if either team is up by 15 or more at the end of the third, you can skip the fourth quarter, kind of do the same thing. This team was rolling at the end of the first and end of the third. And I don't want to leave the Smoothie King Center because it was just fun watching this happen, right? That's how much fun dominating teams can kind of be when you get one of your best players cooking like he was in this one. Just truly a really fun night in the Smoothie King Center for this game. One of the reasons that, they got this win and got it in dominating fashion was the defense was awesome in this one. And it's no surprise that the offense had just a completely dominant night and the defense actually also had a dominant night in this, because those two is something I've been saying all season long are interconnected, right? The way I look at basketball, and this is kind of a trend that's coming into the league now, is all of these things are connected, right? Your offense is connected to your defense, connected to transition, connected to spacing and three-point shooting, then also connects to the defense, and so on and so forth. It's all kind of there. So when the Pelicans go out and score 48 in the first quarter and really limit the Indiana Pacers, I'm not surprised. When you look at that first quarter for New Orleans and what they did and the shooting that they did and not missing shots, essentially, right? They just missed 2. They turned the ball over just 3 times. It just limited what Indiana was capable of doing. One of the things we've talked about here is when you force teams to inbound the ball, your defense can get back and get set. One of the ways that New Orleans thrives, and one of the reasons why their defense is ranked 7th in the league right now, is they force a lot of turnovers. They're really good at that. In terms of forcing opponents to turn the ball over, they're 8th best. They force a turnover about 13% of the time. So 13% of every opponent's offensive possessions, they turn it over. That's a really good number here, because turnovers not only lead to 0 points for your opponent, but if you can get out in the fast break and run, you get easy points. Fast break in transition, all of that is some of the most easy points per play kind of types of shots that you can generate. It's just better offense, easier offense. That's where the saying of good defense leads to easy offense comes from. But that's also the reverse is true. It's something I've been saying here, right? Good offense is going to lead to better defense because your defense gets back and gets set. If you miss a shot, they grab the board and they can run. And Indiana did this in the game on Wednesday. And that's why they raced out to a big lead in the first quarter against New Orleans. And the turnovers, right? You turn the ball over, they get it on a steal, they get out and run and maybe have a man advantage, and they don't need to deal with some of the defenders there. So it negates your really good defense. Well, if you make shots and don't turn the ball over, they can't run against you. They had just 12 fast break points, just 12 in this game. And really, New Orleans limited Indiana. And then they had to play in the half court, and Herb Jones is a monster there. We'll get to that one in just a second in this segment, right? But once they're playing in the half court and limiting Indiana and forcing turnovers, forcing misses, New Orleans can then get out and run themselves. They had 28 fast break points in this one. 28. They did an amazing job of taking advantage of forcing turnovers because the defense was able to get set and do what they do, then get out and run, then immediately get back and get set and do it. Indiana looked like they had a little bit of momentum going into the third quarter at the end of the second, right? New Orleans this is the regression to the mean, right? You can't shoot 91% from the field the whole time. So they came back down to earth a little bit, and Indiana actually won that second quarter by a point because New Orleans didn't shoot just insane. Just 47.8% instead of 91, right? So they gained a little bit of momentum, not a ton, but a little bit. And then in the third quarter, when New Orleans came out and just started making shots, they scored 3 points in the first 6 minutes of the third. They just couldn't get anything going because they couldn't get in transition and run. They scored just 16 points in the third quarter that New Orleans won 31-16. Game over at that point, like easily game over. And that's what you want to see. So all of these things are connected. So when Brandon Ingram is being aggressive, getting to the rim, scoring those easy buckets, right? The defense can then run back, get set, force a turnover, and you can do it again. And then it limits them getting out in transition and running. Tyrese Haliburton in the last game that these two teams played tore them apart in transition, tore them apart by making the right read or scoring himself. Well, you know what? If you don't give them transition opportunities, they can't do that. And you know what that meant for Tyrese Haliburton? Meant a big old goose egg here, a big 0, right? 0 points for Tyrese Haliburton. 0 for 7, over 6 from 3. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover. He did nothing. He was a minus 40 in 22 minutes. Minus 40. Think about that for a second. This is the star, breakout player this season of the league, in the league. And he did zip against the Pelicans. Zip. Because Herb Jones locked him down in the half court and they didn't let him get those easy transition opportunities. The offense is totally connected to the defense. That's why I said I was encouraged by that loss to the Indiana Pacers last week, because in between the first and second quarter, Willie Green said, when they asked about how the defense just gave up 40 or whatever the number was, he goes, it's our offense that's the problem because it's giving them those transition opportunities and our defense can't even do anything. We got to make shots and our defense gets better. That is not how he's always thought. Offense has been the problem for the team this season. But when you get the offense going like this, and the fact that Willie Green recognized that, well, maybe if you play more offensively, it's going to actually fix your defense too. And you saw it in this game. Your offense scored so they couldn't score in transition, which meant they were really limited. New Orleans, their defensive rating on the season here, 7th best, right? Really good number. 113.1. They give up 113.1 points per 100 possessions. That's what that number means. It accounts for pace and kind of equalizes it for that. Their defensive rating in this game against Indiana was 100. Exactly 100. 13.1 points better in this game than their season average, which is already good. Because of their offense humming like it did. Because of Brandon Ingram going 13 of 21. Because of Jonas Valanciunas in limited minutes. They didn't really need him in this one a ton. Going 7 for 11, right? Because of CJ McCollum going 4 of 7 from 3. Because of Trey Murphy, and we'll get into him in the next segment here, going 6 of 12, right? That from 3. Those are the type of things that won them this game. It was the offense leading to their defense being even better. And then the defense could be even better and lead to even more offense. 28 points in the fast break is silly. Is that what the number was? 28, yeah. That was a 15-point advantage for New Orleans right there. That's how they won this game. This team is going to come down to, can they score? And if they can, this defense is allowed to be elite. If you can't score, your defense here isn't going to matter because it can't do anything when teams are getting out and running against you like that. So really cool to see this one kind of just put all together. And I absolutely loved everything that we saw in all of this, that this was just so much fun to be able to see and be a part of and watch, and was just a truly fantastic night for New Orleans. And Brandon Ingram just completely, oh my goodness, completely unstoppable. That was a lot of fun. All right, coming up next, let's look at Trey Murphy, some of the other big performers from this one. They got Jose Alvarado back too. We'll hit on him as well. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, I'm excited to tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more or less on the stat projection for 2 to 6 players and then watch the winnings roll in. And now you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Again, you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. And Prize Picks is super simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entries in less than 60 seconds. They also offer quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types that are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So if you want to give it a go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is up to $100 in a first-time deposit match when you go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. Almost 10,000 of y'all on YouTube. That's the goal to hit at the end of the season. For a show just only dedicated to the New Orleans Pelicans is pretty cool to see. So I appreciate y'all for making Locked On Pelicans part of your day, part of the season, whatever it is. Become an everyday or listen Monday through Friday. Comment down below as well. I see y'all. I appreciate it. It makes a difference. What makes a difference is guys hitting their shots, though, in games, huh? It's a lot of fun when the team is winning and they can go out and do things like that. A guy that got going in this one was Trey Murphy, slowly starting to kind of get out of that slump that he's been in, and he had looked really good in this game. 28 points off the bench, 6 of 12 shooting. He got to the line 9 times, 7 rebounds as well, not a single turnover. If they want to do some damage in the playoffs, they're going to need Trey Murphy off the bench, right? Like, he's going to be the scoring guy off the bench. Hawkins may or may not get minutes. We don't necessarily know what head coach Willie Green is thinking. You know, you have Matt Ryan, who they can bring off the bench, can hit a couple of threes. Spacing, shooting's important with this team. We just talked about it the past 2 segments with the offense, but I don't think he'd crack the rotation in the postseason. But Trey will. And when you look at the guys that are going to get minutes in the postseason, there's Trey, there's Larry, Jose, Najee, maybe Jordan Hawkins, but really you're going to probably run 9 guys. And so Hawkins is probably on the outside looking in there. So you need Trey to hit those shots to bring you the scoring punch. This is a guy that has, an elite shooting skill that has shown the propensity to kind of go off and get buckets. We've seen he has a 40-point game in his career, which is incredible, right? They need him to be able to do that, and he's starting to kind of get back into form and deliver. What I loved about this was his aggressiveness, showing that he's not just only a shooter, right? Look, if he needs to do one thing, it's go 6 of 12 from 3 and beat the defense that way, especially with a couple of deep threes that you need to account for a guy that can do that. That's one of the things that's made Steph Curry such a special player and kind of completely revolutionized the NBA. If you want to read a book on kind of modern offenses, spacing, even with the defense too, go read Spaced Out by Mike Prada. It's a really good book. I really enjoyed it. And that's my go-to recommendation for people kind of wanting to understand how offense, defense, kind of the spacing and that stuff works in the modern NBA. It's really interesting. But a guy that shoots from deep stretches a defense even more, which is only going to give more room to Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram to go and be the best versions of themselves and do what they do. So you need that sort of thing. And when he provides that scoring pop off the bench, that's a really important thing. Also, he will go against bench units, and you will see him have the opportunity to kind of lead that group. And I also think that's still very important for this team. So to see that's great, but him going to the line and making getting to the free throw line shows another dimension to his game, right? Jonas may or may not go to the line in a game, depending. Herb Jones will go a couple of times, right? Brandon Ingram depends on how it goes and how aggressive he's being. Zion Williamson should, but doesn't because of refs. CJ, it depends a little bit too. Trey's a guy, though, that could, in theory, get kind of some high volume free throw attempts for this team, and I think that's a really important thing. It gets him into the bonus, and then it means for sure Herb's going to go to the line. CJ's going to go to the line. Jonas is going to go to the line. I think when you kind of get into that bonus, and we talked about this in the episode we did, if you're an everydayer, of talking about Zion and why it's important that he gets more foul calls and goes to the line more. Once you're in the bonus, it's just easy points for you. And it has the flip side effect, right, of maybe fouling guys out, getting them in foul trouble and, messing with their rotations, things like that. That is an added, not side effect, I guess is the wrong word, but an added part of it. So getting that guy who can attack the basket, be aggressive like Trey was doing, and he was feeling himself in this one. After he got fouled, right, and he was on the ground, and I was worried for where I was sitting that oh no, is he hurt? Is he not going to be able to do this play, whatever? And then he's just doing push-ups, and it was real fun. He was feeling himself, having a good time out there on the court, and we love to see that. So For him to get out there and play as well as he did, I thought was a super important thing for the New Orleans Pelicans. They need that off the bench, right? Like Jose makes an impact. It was nice to see him back. 9 points on 4 of 7 shooting, 1 of 4 from 3, right? 2 assists there. But it's going to be Trey who's going to be like your bucket getter coming off the bench. That's kind of the role for him. You need that in the postseason. You're going to need that when teams are kind of walling off Zion Williamson. I think teams have realized he's playing pretty well. He's not getting foul calls. We're going to kind of really throw bodies at him, and it impacts him. And so you need someone to pick up that slack, and that means someone's going to be open. And when you have Trey to make teams pay, that's a really great thing. Jose Alvarado in this one, how nice was it just to have him back? He got a big ovation coming back from a 3-game suspension after the fight with the Miami Heat. Loved seeing him back out there on the court, making an immediate impact for this team. That was really great to see, just to kind of like settle things down. We talked in the last segment about the turnovers. Indiana couldn't get out and run. New Orleans had 17 in this game, but 6 of those came in garbage time, which was like the entirety of the fourth quarter. So they really had 11 turnovers in this game, the way I kind of look at it, which is what limited it. Getting another point guard back to kind of orchestrate things, I think doesn't hurt. Again, I don't think they truly need a pure point, but having another ball handler there to kind of settle things down at times, I think definitely helps you. And that's something that Jose Alvarado provides to this team. We're going to see if they can kind of keep this up. These 2 games against Indiana, like I don't know if that woke Willie Green up, if he realized they've got to rely on the offense more because it's going to lead to better things for the defense. But that was just a relief, right? That like, yes, they kind of figured this out. And the fact that you have, your head coach kind of acknowledging what's been the problem, it feels like all season long. Well, okay. Maybe that means this can get fixed these next handful of games. You have about 20 games or so left. It's like a little bit less than that to going forward. And that's a real important thing. Start playing your best basketball. That was a good loss the other night against Indiana. This was an even better win against Indiana here. And I don't know. That was fun. That was an awesome game for Brandon Ingram. Keep that up. He and Zion will be able to coexist. Trey keeps going like this. The offense is going to be great. The defense will be elite if they play like they did. And we don't expect them to shoot 91%, for an extended period of time here, or even 55.8% over the game. That's a high number. But feeling good about what we saw from the team. Let's see if they can do that going forward. And if they can, on a bit of a tough road trip coming up for the team, but they get some rest. They're at Toronto on Tuesday, Friday at Philly, and then at Atlanta before coming back. And they have a couple days there for a tough homestand as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. See what happens. Stretch run of the year. It's time to make moves. Play your best basketball. We're going to see. Let me know what you thought about the game in the comments down below on YouTube. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. This is the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'll be back with y'all tomorrow.